It's baffled scholars for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle made of multi-dimensional elements, an enigma with roots that reach back to the dawning of time, perhaps before. Daniel explained part of it. Ezekiel and Isaiah had glimpses into it. John saw it all for the time of the end. That time is now. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert on a journey that spans the course of history, from Eden to Mount Hermon, from Hermon to Babel, from Babel to Rome, from Rome to the cross, and from there to us. Biblical prophecy is coming true before your eyes, and to understand it, you must discern the times both then and now. It's time to unravel the threads of this all-encompassing prophetic paradox. It's time to unravel Revelation.
Welcome to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert. I get to be Sharon Gilbert. I love that. Honestly, I am so glad to take your last name. I've got friends who chose not to or hyphenated it, but I like taking Derek's last name.
I am honored.
I like having you as my protector and my covering and my partner in life.
Well, the co-host of my life.
Co-host of my life.
Yes.
I love that. Well, welcome to our living room. We are continuing our discussion of Revelation chapter 14.
Yeah.
Angels get to preach.
Yeah, this is really interesting. And I know that, well, as with everything in Revelation, we're not going to dig into every possible interpretation of Revelation. We're going to explain it to the best of our ability.
We'll have
But
to go
as
through the
with
whole thing
everything-
again after we finish this series. And
yeah, well, because by then we'll have learned a few things.
I
We'll
know.
have more to say. But as with everything in the book of Revelation, there are multiple interpretations of the imagery. And this is because, I think by God's design,
Yes.
that not everything was made clear to John, just as not everything had been made clear by the prophets of old.
And we know not everything was written down.
Right,
Because there
right.
was at least one area where he said, no, don't write that down.
Right. But the apostles didn't understand the nature of Jesus' mission. Even after his resurrection, they were still asking, are you going to restore the kingdom to Israel now? Because they were looking for a geopolitical savior in the first century.
Some still are.
And well, they still are. I mean, that's
No, yeah. There are some people in the church, they're actually believers,
right.
who believe somehow that we can vote in Jesus.
Yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
No.
Satan offered the kingdoms of the world to Jesus if he would bow the knee. And I think that's because that Satan has dominion temporarily over the governments of the world. That's not to say we shouldn't be involved in the process, and especially at the local level where we still have some authority. And but
Train
let's
your
not
child up. And
Yes, right. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Let's not confuse that with sharing the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. We cannot substitute government action for personal testimony,
No.
personal witnessing.
But don't you think that the angels are just frustrated?
Yeah, it's like a big brother who looks at a little sibling who's just doing all the stupid things that the big brother did and learned from. Well, we see that in the parable of the prodigal son, where the prodigal son finally comes home and he's covered with pig droppings and stinking, and he's wasted all of his inheritance, and he's just hoping to get a spot somewhere working with the servants. And the older brother is miffed that the father prepares the fatted calf and let's hold a feast because he was dead and now he's alive again. He's back with us. And the older brother's got to be like, who am I? Chopped liver?
Yeah. But, the older brother had been there all along. I'm sure the older brother,
Right.
just like our elder brothers, the angels in heaven, who did not rebel, those who are loyal. I think they must get frustrated when they watch us because we've been given one job.
Yeah.
Lift up Christ, and tell people the gospel.
Right. Love God with all of our hearts, souls, and minds. And,
Love others as you love yourself. If
Right.
you want to say 2 jobs, but mainly it's the Great Commission.
Right.
And we keep blowing that.
And so they have been tasked with assisting us, protecting us. There's the reference in the New Testament of children whose angels are constantly before God, which is a marvelous picture.
Which is one reason that I write the Red Wing Saga the way I do. There are a lot of interactions with loyal and disloyal angels.
Which I think is would explain much of what happens in this world. both good and bad. But the angels are given some missions in the end times, and there are some denominations. I don't want to dig into this, but there are some denominations that have taken this as a central part of their teachings. But there are three angels in Revelation chapter 14 who are tasked with going forth and spreading the gospel message to the earth. Now, bear in mind, this is during the period that we call the Great Tribulation. And things on earth are getting progressively worse. The first 3.5 years, everything seems fine. It's a big party. And then things
Except I
start
think
to
that then
unravel.
we've got the 144,000 who are preaching, the two
Right.
witnesses who are preaching. So people are starting to get it.
Yeah. Even though most of the world will still look at those, the 144,000 and the two witnesses as just real nuisances.
Well, exactly. You and I are pre-trib. And I know that not everyone is. That's fine. We don't, we fellowship with any and all. As long as you call Jesus your Savior, then you're preaching the right Jesus, then we've got a lot in common. But those who are pre-trib believe that we won't be here the first 3.5 years. But there will be preaching taking place. I believe that's one reason that you get these 144,000 who are sealed. It's the other reason the two witnesses are sent here. They are now preaching not only to the Gentiles, but focusing on Israel.
Because Israel will be the focus of the final battle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Israel is the focus of that final week of Daniel's 70 weeks.
Exactly. So Revelation 14, beginning at verse 6, then I saw another angel flying directly overhead with an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, an eternal gospel.
Yeah.
To every nation and tribe and language and people. And nation, we're not talking about a geopolitical entity here. We're not talking about a nation state. It's ethnos.
It's tribes.
Yeah, every ethnicity, every tribe, every language, every people.
Now, I think it's really interesting, and this is another one of those, I guess I didn't get it before, moments. These angels are preaching an everlasting gospel. Contrast that with the lies being spun by the beasts. The lamb with the two horns, the little that is
looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon.
Speaks like a dragon, exactly. And they are saying you can live forever. We're seeing it now with transhumanism. You can live forever in your sins. Do whatever you want to do, though you won't have to die. This is an everlasting gospel. This is the opposite of that. This is the true version of eternal life. What the enemy is preaching is eternal death.
Right. They're doomed. I think they know it. And I think a lot of these promises are simply to take as many humans with them as possible when they go. I don't know whether the fallen realm actually thinks it can win. If the entities in the fallen realm actually think they have a chance of defeating God, if they are that high on themselves, if they got that much hubris, but it may just be that they're just so angry that they are denied redemption that they're just planning to take humanity with them when they go, or as much of humanity as they can.
Well, I realize that they probably understand the world far better than you and I do. However, they still killed Jesus. You'd think they would have figured that one out.
Well, yeah, that's true. And Paul wrote, if the archons, the rulers of the age, had known, they would not have crucified.
In other words, the
glory.
Lord has the ability to blind them and harden their hearts.
Yeah.
We saw it with Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So maybe they do think they can win.
It's possible. Yeah, maybe they think that their supernatural army, the demonic realm, will give them the edge that they need to win the victory. I don't know.
Or if they just, get rid of the real humans, alter humanity so much that they're not, that they're not
Redeemable?
worth anything
Right.
anymore. Yeah. Let's roll them all in, pig stuff.
Yeah. Interesting, too, the phrase flying directly overhead is the same phrase that we saw back in Revelation 8 when the threefold woe was announced.
Yes.
You've got the woe, woe, woe. Now here you've got preaching and proclaiming the gospel.
Yeah.
Again, just okay, you humans down there, we're giving you another chance.
Okay.
Here's the message.
Here's the interesting thing. If they are indeed preaching in the second half of the tribulation period, right after the two witnesses are dead and everybody's getting sealed and this and that. And is it possible the humans will once again see them? There was a time when we saw them.
Well, I think so. I think that there will be more supernatural manifestations during this period than previously.
Now, let me just make a suggestion to you. Little fly just moving. You've written a book called The Day the Earth Stands Still with Josh Peck. It's an amazing book, and if you don't have it, you really need to get it. We have it through our gilberthouse.org website, but you can buy it through the skywatchtvstore.com. You can also go to Amazon and get it. But The Day the Earth Stands Still is all about the gospel from the stars, the idea that we have been created by alien beings and they're coming back to tweak our design. What if the fallen realm say, no, those are the aliens we've been telling you about all along. Those are the evil ones.
Yeah. No, I have no doubt that would be the kind of thing that they would do. Now, obviously, we can only speculate about this because it's not explicit in the Bible. And we're trying to be very careful about not taking as a doctrinal position something that isn't clear in the Bible. But that would certainly make sense. Yes, you can see those things flying up overhead, but they're lying. They're lying liars from Zeta Reticuli.
Yeah, everything we do is true, but they're lying. They're trying to make you do things that you don't want to do. Here, come over here and take this seal.
Yeah.
Okay, Brand.
Another angel flying directly overhead with an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, to every nation, every ethnos, and tribe and language and people. And he said with a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water." And what's really interesting about that is in the Greek, that's Oranos and Gaia.
I know exactly the names.
The parents of the Titans.
In other words, saying to the fallen realm,
Right.
I know you're lying. You've been lying about me for millennia, and judgment is here.
Right. But even the sea and the springs of water is more than it
I
seems.
know.
Because in Hebrew, that would be Yam and Nahar.
Yes, exactly.
Which is the two aspects of the chaos monster.
Yes.
So heaven, earth, chaos, God created all of it. And now he's coming down there to pass judgment and
he's out of
restore
bubblegum.
justice. Yes, he's all out of bubblegum.
If you got that, good on you.
Verse 8, another angel, a second, followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all the nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality." And again, this gets back to what we discussed last week with 144,000 virgins, not really a physical purity, but a spiritual purity. Those who did not chase after the gods of the nations, the pagan deities, the fallen angels who manifested as gods throughout history.
Now, in the next episode, you and I are going to probably get into the actual fall of Babylon the Great and talk about that because it's coming up. But right here, it's referenced, which I think means that occurs in the middle of the tribulation period. In other words, as I have said, I think Inanna is the whore of Babylon, and she has set it all up.
And we may not get to that till Revelation 17, but
when we actually,
there'll be a lot to
true.
unpack.
Sorry, a lot between now and then. But when we do get that, we will unpack all of that. But I think this is time stamping it to the middle of the tribulation period.
Right,
so
right.
bookmark that.
Right. Yeah. John expands on that in Revelation 17. And so there are a lot to discuss regarding who or what is Mystery Babylon. And
well, exactly. The dragon is all done. He's used her, all of these entities that we see, the beast, the dragon, the false prophet, they have been using her to set up their kingdom. And they're done with her. And we'll see that when she falls in Revelation 17.
Well, let's get to the third angel after a break, because that's when we get
idea.
into the penalty proclaimed on those who worship the beast and its image.
Yes.
Yeah, it's rough times as we're going through Revelation 14 this week. Unraveling Revelation will continue after this. Jesus told his followers to love our God with all of our hearts, souls, and minds. And that's what we try to do every week here at Gilbert House Ministries. This program is an outreach of our ministry. Every week, We search through the mysteries of end times prophecy on Unraveling Revelation. We look at the nexus of science and the supernatural on Sci Friday. We study the Bible verse by verse in chronological order at the Gilbert House Fellowship. And each week, I interview fascinating guests on my podcast, A View from the Bunker. Producing that much content takes time. Serving up that much audio and video costs money, and so we depend on your support. You can support us in a couple of ways. First, you can donate through our website at gilberthouse.org, or you can contact us through the U.S. mail. Gilbert House Ministries, P.O. Box 78, Crane, Missouri 65633. And you can shop at our online store, a sort of a virtual book table, where during the month of June, you can save 20% on every one of Sharon's 7 novels in her series of supernatural thrillers, The Red Wing Saga. Just use promo code JUNE20 at checkout. That's JUNE20. We are grateful for your help in fulfilling our mission. We thank you for your prayers and your support. Welcome back to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert, and welcome again to our home. Got your tea, got your coffee, whatever it is. We always drink tea in the afternoon. We want to remind you that we are going to Israel in March of 2023, and you can learn all about it at skywatchinisrael.com. Or you can go to Turkey with us in October of 2022. That is filling up.
Yeah.
It's last call if you want to go.
That's really going to be a fascinating tour. The discoveries that have been made in the southeast of the country around Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe.
Much bigger than they thought.
Yeah. In fact, they've got a ring of hills now that have Neolithic era artifacts that are digging up out of the dirt, and just stunning archaeologists who thought, well, we thought humans were basically cavemen back then, but they had this really organized civilization to build these massively, stupefyingly big sites.
Cyclopean.
Yeah.
Truly cyclopean architecture.
So we'll talk about that, because that, we think, is a reflection of the influence of the spirit realm on the pre-flood world, and may have some bearing on why God decided to send the flood. But we'll also see Abraham's hometown of Haran. We'll see Antakya, which is ancient Antioch, where Christians were first called by that name, and much, much more. You can get a look at the itinerary, lots of photos in the itinerary. Mount Nemrut, which a
lot of people have never even heard of, but I saw a documentary on it and said, I want to go there.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, our good friend Gary Stearman of Prophecy Watchers just wrote an article for their magazine about the bloodline of Antichrist. Yes. And King Antiochus Theos.
Yes.
Yeah, he had a very high opinion of himself.
He truly did. Called himself a god.
Yep. He's the one who built this tomb for himself, or had it built in the 1st century BC, so 60 years before the birth of Christ. This massive monument to himself, his tomb, was built on top of a mountain with these massive idols representing his gods. Oh, one of them just happens to look like him. But he's a descendant of Antiochus Epiphanes, who was the one who desecrated the temple in the 2nd century BC by sacrificing a pig and putting a statue of Zeus in the temple.
Thank you, Gary Stearman. It's starting to make sense.
The Antichrist's bloodline, does it run through Mount Nemrut? We will talk about that and much more on the tour. You find out everything about the tour and reserve your place at skywatchinturkey.com.
We also want to remind you of our website, gilberthouse.org. There are lots of stuff there. You can get our free app there. In fact, it says, get our free app on the link. You can get apps for iOS and Android. And
Amazon Kindle Fire, tablets and phones as well.
Also on Roku.
And Apple TV even.
Everything we do is right there on our app. It's called GHTV, the Gilbert House TV, or at Roku, it's just called Gilbert House. But gilberthouse.org, go there. And also, if you decide that you want to shop around, buy maybe a book or a DVD, we'd love that too.
Take 20% off of all Sharon's Red Wing Saga novels during the month of June. Promo code JUNE20 at checkout.
Is it still June when this plays?
Yes.
Yay! He knows, I don't. He's got the schedule. I just sit here and talk.
That's all you need to do, sweetheart.
You're so sweet.
Yeah, you're carrying the show.
I am. So, third angel.
The third angel, another angel, a third, followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and its image, and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, he also will drink the wine of God's wrath, poured full strength into the cup of his anger, and he will be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Now, the reference to full strength is because back in the day, when you drank wine, it wasn't to get drunk. It basically
usually diluted it a little
yeah,
bit.
because water was not purified like we got in the modern world. So, the alcohol content would kill the bad stuff. You dilute it with some other water, and, there you go. But the image of the beast, we talked about that previously, where in the modern world we think, okay, it's a picture, okay, maybe it's a 3D image, it's a hologram. What the connotation of the word in Greek is an idol, something that gave the spirit locality.
Yes, exactly.
So when its worshipers would come, they would pray to they weren't praying to the block of wood or stone.
It could be a picture, it could be a representation, whatever it is. You could have it in your homes. It could be, just something that everybody buys at the store and they take home, or that they're required to have in their home, like, say, an internet connection.
Yeah, through an implant right into your
yes,
into your
exactly.
brain. But that's what's denoted there. That's what's suggested by the term there.
But notice here it says, shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. I'm reading the KJV, by the way, in the presence of the holy angels. Not just tormented, but all of the loyal ones get to watch.
Yeah. I think the other thing we should mention again, just because it's explicit here, but we get questions from time to time about people who are very distressed about the idea that they or their family members might have the mark implanted on them while they're not aware.
Sneaked into a vaccine or something.
Snuck into a vaccine. They might be, what if I'm in an accident or taken ill and I'm asleep and I'm out of it? And you have to make the decision to worship the beast and its image along with the mark.
Free will.
Right.
In many ways, beginning in the Garden of Eden, the enemy has tried to attack our free will. He twists things so that we say yes to something without really knowing what it is we've said yes to. Will the enemy try to trick people into taking the mark? Probably, but your free will still be valid. If you say no, you say no. If you say yes because you plan on taking it to get around, get a job, buy and sell, and you're willing to worship this entity, then you've just made a free will choice.
Right. But
but it won't be you won't be tricked into taking it.
Right. And the idea that it could be imposed on you without your free will, without your choice. It's
not going to be sneaked into something. You have to be given the opportunity to say yes or no.
Right. Well, the consequences are pretty clear. So we know what the stakes are here. It may get, for those people who are still on the earth in those days, it may literally mean a choice between having to find other ways to feed their families.
I know. And this, because of this, I want to get into something that really may seem like it's not totally connected, but to me it is, and that is prepping your home. Because you and I may not be here, but someone else who is on the run may be able to take advantage of our home and any water and foodstuffs that we have here, anything that may help them to survive for another week.
Yeah.
To me, that's worth everything.
And so leaving those stores behind along with Bibles
and books to explain where you start, what it is you're reading, DVDs, generators, maybe some gasoline. Boy, gasoline these days. That would be a real gift. But the bottom line is that there will be people who will not take this mark, and they are going to be on the run because they're not going to be allowed to buy or sell.
Right. The barter economy will probably proliferate, but I'm sure the controlling legal authorities will do everything they can to put a stop to it.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not going to be an easy time to be alive. Verse 11, and the smoke of their torment, these are those who've made the choice to worship the beast and its image. The smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, these worshippers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives the mark of its name. Here is a call for the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven saying, "Write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Blessed indeed, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow them."
Exactly. Exactly. It is better to give up your life than to lose eternal life.
Right. Clearly, John was being led to write this because at that point, there would be Christians martyred for their faith.
Well, I think John very likely thought that this was going to happen quickly.
Yes.
And so he saw what was going on around him. He probably assumed everything I've seen. Boy, this looks like it could happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there have been times throughout history where that's been true. I was just talking last night during an interview about my book with fellows who were asking me about persecution, and I talked about the persecution under Domitian in the late 3rd century, which oddly enough was prompted by the fact that the oracles of Apollo, the god Apollo, was considered the oracular god, the oracle of Delphi, and there was an oracle oracles all over the Mediterranean world that were consulted by the Roman emperors and other important figures. You know, should we go to war with Parthia or not? They were going silent. And the persecution was prompted by an oracle near Antioch who told Galerius that the righteous men made it impossible for us to speak the truth. And that was a reference to Christians. So that during that period of time when Christians were basically stripped of their property, their jobs, they were kicked out of the army, they must have thought, okay, the time is coming soon now. We are being persecuted for our faith. And of course, it was just a few years later that Constantine took control of the Roman Empire, legalized the faith, and then the enemy worked another direction by rotting the church from the inside out. That's a whole nother story.
I think we're seeing a similar thing now, and we're running out of time, but when I was in the 70s, much younger person, there was a belief amongst the New Agers that it was the Christians who were stopping us from really moving into that next phase of humanity.
Right, from ascending.
And if we could just get rid of them.
Yeah, it's a very similar thing. But interesting that it's documented history that in the late 3rd century, the silence of the oracles of Apollo led to the persecution of the church. The fact that the spread of the faith in Jesus Christ shut down the lines of communication to the spirit realm.
Hallelujah.
And it's no wonder that we're seeing more and more manifestations of the supernatural today as more and more people are falling away from the faith. But God foresaw it. It's all in His Word. And having read the end of the book, as we continue to study it, we know that He's already won. We are just waiting for judgment to be carried out.
That's right.
Thank you for watching. This is Unraveling Revelation.
Unraveling Revelation is a viewer-supported outreach of Gilbert House Ministries. Follow us online at unravelingrevelation.tv and gilberthouse.org. That's where you'll find our weekly Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us through our websites or drop us a line at P.O. Box 78, Crane, Missouri 65633.